And that brings us to step 4, which is give more than you receive. On the social web, when you're trying to build your brand, you cannot just publicize company news. You can't just promote yourself. You have to create amazing, what I call share-worthy content. You want your content to be so interesting and good that the people who follow you and connect with you want to spread it to their own followers and their own audiences. This is how, in time, you get all those tentacles out there even further and get more and more people aware of who you are and talking to you, and hopefully following those links back to your core branded online destination. So get involved, ask questions, answer questions, be real, and most importantly, Gary Vaynerchuk says his rule of thumb is for every 1 hour of self-promotion he does on the social web, he does 3 hours of simply engaging, building relationships, talking to people, creating amazing content. And there's a reason for that, because nobody cares about you. And that's one of the main reasons that I wrote my copywriting book. Besides the parrot, there was the people who put their kids in their commercials. No one cares about you. You need to define who you want to talk to, find them involved in the existing conversations, learn what they want to talk about, learn what matters to them, produce valuable content that they want to hear and share. It has to be share-worthy. Share their content too, not just your own. You have to give as much as you receive. Be accessible and human, avoid corporate rhetoric, and bring them slowly back to your core branded destination. Think of it this way. If your social media participation is 100% self-promotion, no one's going to want to talk to you. You're going to fail. If you were at a party and you were talking to someone that you hadn't met before, and all they did was talk about themselves, on and on, talking about themselves, you're going to want to get away from that person as fast as you can. And you're going to avoid them for the rest of the night and hopefully never talk to them again. Well, it's the same way on the social web. If all you do is talk about yourself, no one's going to want to hang out with you. You have to share their content, talk to them, engage them, and make them be the most important thing. And that's why indirect marketing is so powerful on the social web, because it's not so much the promotions and discounts that you put out there. Those are great short-term tactics, but they're not going to sustain your business in the long term. It's the relationships, the brand loyalty, and the brand advocates that you create through those relationships that will build your brand over time and create sustainable long-term business. I always recommend people to use the 80-20 rule. In marketing, the 80-20 rule says 80% of your business comes from 20% of your customers. Well, let's spin it to social media marketing. I say 20% or less of your participation should be self-promotional. 80% or more should not be self-promotional. If you follow that rule, even if you're only online for a half hour on the social web, that's okay. But spend 20% of the time self-promoting, make sure the other 80% is not self-promotional. Good example is Whole Foods. Whole Foods has a gazillion Twitter profiles, all for different niches, different target audiences. So they're delivering interesting, share-worthy content to specific audiences. Most of their Twitter stream, the main Twitter profile is all ad replies. Their CEO blog is really interesting. He talks about special ingredients. He has food podcasts. The main Whole Foods blog has recipes, industry news, green tips, all kinds of interesting things. You're not just going to read a press release on the Whole Foods blog. It's interesting. And they're on Facebook. They've got a Flickr photo profile. All the time, they're adding value, giving Whole Foods a personality, and consistently expressing that brand promise. Another example is Naked Pizza. How many of you have heard of Naked Pizza? All right, Naked Pizza is a good example. Here's this little pizza shop in New Orleans who couldn't compete with the big guys. They couldn't afford direct mail anymore. That's how most pizza places get new business or repeat business is coupons in the mail, the Alpac, the local newspaper, circular. Naked Pizza couldn't afford it. Direct mail is just too expensive. And so they turned to Twitter, and they started offering their discounts on their Twitter stream. They started leading to direct sales. Customers would come in, they can even now tweet in an order, but they'd come into the store with the Twitter stream and say, you know, I want this discount, and it worked. Naked Pizza has given a statistic one day, 68% of their sales came from Twitter. So they've since integrated Twitter into their point of sale system. They've got kiosks in the store for people to hang out and use Twitter. They don't do any more direct mail. Everything is done on their Twitter stream, including even their newsletter content is sent out through Twitter. It's valuable, interesting, share-worthy, amazing content in 140 characters or less, and it worked. And Naked Pizza is growing by leaps and bounds and incredibly successful now. And it all started because they couldn't compete with the big guys. And then step 5 is don't put all your eggs in one basket. You have to diversify your social media presence to network with a broader audience. Because not everybody, we talked about self-selecting your branded experiences, not everybody likes Twitter. Not everybody likes to watch YouTube videos. So you have to offer different branded experiences, but you also have to make sure that you're offering quality content in all those experiences. And if you're a one-man show, you have to make sure that you enjoy doing each of those experiences, or you're going to stop doing it and it's a waste of time. So remember, quality trumps quantity, and at all times, all roads, all those tentacles have to lead back to that core branded online destination. A good example is Dell. Dell is someone who definitely doesn't put all their eggs in one basket. We're going to talk about Dell a little bit more later. Dell has not always been a good example of social media marketing. Today they are, so let's talk about that part now. They have a bunch of Twitter profiles. Their @Dell Outlet Twitter profile is very successful. They've reported $2 million of business in a single year, all from their Dell Outlet profile. They have a bunch of blogs targeted to different niche target audiences. They have a social network, they have Facebook, LinkedIn, they've got a forum, you name it. Dell is all over the social web so that people can self-select how they want to interact with the brand. Google has over 100 company blogs. Dozens and dozens of Google employees write their own blogs and reference the company quite frequently. Oh, of course, they own a ton of social media websites and tools, so they should be a good example. Yeah. But, you know, it's just an example of how you can let your employees give up some control and let them advocate the brand. Even Google can do it. And they're not the loosest ship out there. So if they can do it, you can do it. Remember, social media is very much a two-way street. You can get more exposure than ever from the social web and building your network. You can reach more people. Your audience can grow faster than you ever imagined. But it also gives you an opportunity to learn about your customers. So you're doing two things. You're promoting and indirectly marketing and building relationships, but you're also learning so much about your customers. When else in time have people had this kind of access to people's thoughts and feelings and what they think is good or bad and their reviews? And it's amazing when you think about how much you can learn about your customers and your competitors just by keeping track of what they're talking about online. Use that to your advantage.